Alright, so good morning, good noon, good afternoon, good evening kung kailan niyo man 'to panoorin. I'm sure you're cramming right now or if not, edi congrats sa iyo. Pero, we'll be talking about the next topic. For sure you have watched the personality 1, personality 2, social behavior 1, and social behavior 2. And right now we'll be talking entirely a different something, no, a different topic. So sino sa inyo naka-experience na ng stress this week? For sure you have experienced that since paparating na ang exam. You're cramming, doing your super peta as well, 'di ba? Ako rin, na-stress din ako sa paggawa ng exam. And our topic for today is something na relatable sa ating lahat, which is the stress and health. At hindi lang natin pag-uusapan kung ano siya, we're going to explore kung paano connected ang stress sa physical health, sa immune system, at kahit sa brain natin. Alam nyo yung feeling na overwhelmed ka na sa lahat ng requirements tapos magkakasakit ka pa after finals, no? That's not a coincidence. May science behind that. And yan ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon. So, buckle up kasi ang journey natin today is going to change the way you understand your own body and your own experiences with stress. Okay? So let's begin with understanding what is stress, 'di ba? Kung tatanungin ko kayo, sigurado iba-iba yung sagot nyo. And it will take the whole night to answer, right? The whole time to answer. So, some might say na yung feeling na kapag ang daming deadlines, other might say yung pagod na pero kailangan pa rin gumising tapos i-push yung sarili. And that's the thing. Stress is actually a very broad term. Hindi siya one specific thing. It can refer to the pressure na nararamdaman natin sa daily life. Okay? Yung mga demands na nagpapahirap sa atin to keep our sense of well-being, right? Sometimes we talk about feeling stressed as if it's an emotion. Parang anxiety mixed with exhaustion. Yung feeling na gusto mo na lang humiga tapos mag-hibernate. Gusto mo na lang hindi matapos yung tulog mo, ganun. Pero here's what's interesting. Pansin nyo ba na may mga taong sobrang chill lang sa buhay kahit sobrang daming ginagawa? Parang silang yung mga taong walang sense of urgency, parang gano'n yung dating, 'di ba? Pero hindi gano'n, Tapos yung mga tao naman na sobrang stressed na sila kahit sa sobrang liit na bagay. Same situation, different reactions, 'di ba? Kaya yung pinaka-accepted na definition ng stress sa psychology is stress occurs when a situation overwhelms a person's perceived ability to meet the demand of that situation. Take note, perceived. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang about sa situation itself. It's about how you evaluate that situation relative to your resources. For example, imagine you're doing poorly sa class ko. May finals ka in 1 week, di ba? Initially, stressed ka. Pero then you realize, pwede naman pala akong mag-set aside ng time to study, mag-attend ng study groups, mag-invite ng friends para mag-study kami ng sabay-sabay, mag-take ng coffee shop, di ba? Habang nag-aaral, matulog ng maayos, di ba? Suddenly, may plan ka. And what happens? The stress decreases. That's the key insight here. Stress is not just about what happens to us, but how we interpret what happens to us in relation to our ability to cope. And that specific distinction is going to be really important as we go deeper into this topic. Okay? Now, let's explore the different ways psychologists have conceptualized stress with. So, as a stimulus, as a response, and as a relationship. Para mas maintindihan natin ang stress, tignan natin tong tatlong perspective kung paano to pinag-aaralan ng mga psychologists. Okay? Una, yung stimulus view. Sa perspective na to, stress is something that happens to us. Very much sinasabi lang na it's the external events, no? The stressors na nagpo-push sa atin sa limits natin. And yung mga situations na sobra sa capacity natin to manage. Okay? Think of it this way. Na-late ka ng pasa ng super peta. Nag-breakdown ka sa 7-Eleven. Tapos wala ka ng allowance this week. Tapos nag-away pa kayo ng jowa mo. Lahat yon nangyari in 1 week. Each of those events ay stressor. And the stimulus view focuses on these situations as the source of stress. Very external, no? Pangalawa, the response view. Dito naman, ang focus is what happens inside our bodies. Ang stress is the physiological changes na nagaganap kapag nakaka-encounter tayo ng challenging situations. Yung pounding heart, yung pagpapawis ng palad, yung tensed muscles, lahat yan ay parte ng stress responses. This is where we'll later talk about Hans Selye's work on general adaptation syndrome. Okay? Basically, he studied the body's physical responses to extreme stressors. Okay? Pero let's spark on that muna. Pagpahingayin muna natin si Hans. Pabalikan natin siya mamaya. Yung pangatlo is the relational view. Ito, inadvocate to ni Lazarus and ni Folkman, and many psychologists consider this the most comprehensive one. Ang sabi nila, stress emerges from the relationship between people and the situations that they're in. Meaning, kung gaano ka stressful ang isang situation ay depende sa kung ano ang ibig sabihin ng situation na yon for you. Example, final exam. Para sa student na hindi nag-aral at hindi nag-a-attend ng class or nag-attend ng class tapos nagpanggap na nag-aral, di ba? The exam is terrifying. Severe stress, meron yan. Pero for a student na prepared, nag-a-attend ng class, nag-review, that same exam is just challenging pero not unduly stressful. Di ba? Same exam, different stress levels. Why? Because of the person's evaluation of their ability to cope with it. Right? So which perspective do you agree more? The stimulus view, response view, or relational view? Okay. Yan. Oh, well, let's see. Let's see. Let's see from your answers. Let's dive deeper into each of these views starting with stress as stimulus. Kapag kasi iniisip natin ang stress as a stimulus, ang tanong natin, ano yung mga events na nangyayari, bakit ako stressed? Okay? Nung late 1990s or nung late 1960s pala. Nung late 1960s, sina Thomas Holmes at Richard Ray, nag-develop sila something called Social Readjustment Rating Scale. Okay? Or the SRRS. Ang idea nila is to quantify the stress, to put number on it. Tignan nyo tong table na to. Dito, from the table, we have the life event and the life change units, di ba? Sabi dito, yung death of a spouse has the highest score of 100. Makes sense, right? That's one of the most devastating thing. That's one of the most devastating thing that can happen to a person. Pero ang interesting dito, look at what else is on the list. Divorce, 73. Jail term, 63. Personal injury, 53. Di ba? Tingnan nyo rin yung marriage, 50. Yung pregnancy, 40. Retirement, 45. Bakit kasama yung mga good events? Because even pleasant events can be stressful. A wedding is a happy occasion, di ba? Pero girl, it requires major adjustments. Planning, expenses, changes in living arrangement, new responsibilities, expectations from your husband, from your wife, di ba? It's very stressful, no? The point is, any event that creates major upheaval in person's life, may it be positive or negative, whether pleasant or unpleasant, can lead to stress because it requires adaptation. But here's the limitation of the SRRS. Hindi lahat ng tao same ng interpretation sa events. For some people, marital separation might be more stressful than a work change. Pero for others, baka relieved pa sila sa separation. Kasi parang finally free na ako from that horrible person. Shit, I was able to break free from that person, no? Salamat sa Diyos. Sa wakas nakaalis na ako. Ganun, happy, di ba? Also, the SRRS measures the events. Pero hindi niya nakukuha yung emotional response. Two people might both get divorced, pero yung isa might feel devastated while the other feels liberated, no? 'Di ba? Despite these limitations ng SRRS, it is widely used because it's easy to administer and it gives us a general picture of stress levels. Okay? Gets po? Gets naman ako so far? Okay. Pero yung major events, major life events aren't the only source of stress. Sometimes, and actually most of the time, it's the small things that really get to us, 'di ba? So we talk about the major life events, no? Pero in reality, sabi ko nga, hindi naman laging nag-experience ng death of a spouse or divorce yung isang tao, no? Hindi yan madalas nararamdaman. Pero stressed pa rin tayo sa ibang bagay, di ba? That's because, again, it's the little things that wear us down. Yung daily hassles natin. Right? Si Kanner and yung mga kasama niya, nag-develop sila ng tinatawag na Hassels and Uplifts Scale noong 1981. Yung measure na 'to, mini-measure niya yung frequency and intensity of minor irritations in our lives, as well as the positive events na puwedeng mag-counteract ng negative effects nila. Think about this, ang traffic, sobrang traffic, papunta kayong mall. Pagdating niyo sa mall, walang parking, 'di ba? Yung na-late ka na dun sa movie na papanoorin niyo tapos tapos wala pang parking, tapos traffic pa, 'di ba? Tas naiwan mo pa yung susi sa loob ng kotse, 'di ba? Gets niyo? That's a daily hassle. Individually, these things seem small. Parang kapag sa perspective ng ibang tao, pag kinuwento mo yung isang part lang, sasabihin niya, "Eh, kaliit-liit naman na bagay na 'yan." 'Di ba? Para yun lang, gaganunin ka and nakaka-offend yun 'pag sinabihan ka ng gano'n. Kasi kapag nagsama-sama yung mga gano'n, it will eventually accumulate, they pile up, and they will wear you down, both mentally and physically. In fact, some studies show that daily hassles are more strongly related to health outcomes than major life events. Bakit? Because major life events are occasional. Pero daily hassles, that's common hassle, no? Araw-araw 'yan. May study sa US na nag-follow ng US military veterans for 16 years, more than 1,300 men. And they found out that it wasn't just the number of hassles that mattered. It was the intensity of those hassles, how severe their impact was perceived to be. Yung conclusion is that yung daily stressors na nape-perceive ng isang tao as intense were so detrimental that they actually shortened people's lives. Imagine that, 'di ba? Yung stress mo sa mga maliliit na bagay, kung gaano ka-intense yung perception mo doon, can affect kung gaano katagal kang mabubuhay. So the more stressed you are, the shorter your lifespan would be. Ganun yung idea ng the hassles and uplifts scale, 'di ba? So don't underestimate the small stuff. Yung traffic stress, yung work deadline mo, yung annoying classmate mo na nakikipag-usap sa habang nagdi-discuss ako, 'di ba? Kung nag-accumulate 'yan at intense yung feeling mo about them, they can have the real consequences for your health, 'di ba? But here's the problem with measuring both major life events and hassles. Not everyone views the same situation the same way. And that leads us sa relational view of the stress. Okay? Stress as a person, situation, interaction. We arrive now at what many psychologists consider the most complete understanding of the stress, yung relational and transactional view. Richard Lazarus and Susan Folkman, nag-argue sila na hindi pwedeng mag-focus lang sa stressors themselves. We also have to consider how people interpret those stressors. Kasi, let's be real, hindi lahat ng tao nagre-react the same way sa lahat ng situation. Example, sa job interview. For someone na well-prepared, confident, and may experience, that interview might feel challenging. Siguro excited pa nga di ba? Pero for someone who's underprepared, anxious, and has been rejected multiple times, that same interview might feel threatening. Nakakatakot yun. And for someone who doesn't really want the job or siguro employed na sa ibang company, that interview may be irrelevant. Wala na siyang pakialam doon, di ba? Same situation, three completely different stress experiences. This is why Lazarus and Folkman said, we need to look in the person, no? Sorry, transactional model. We need to look at the person in relation to the situation. Stress isn't just about what happens to you. It's about the meaning you give to what happens to you. Gets? Nagets po ba yun? And this is where their concept of appraisal comes in. Yan. Sabi nila, again, we need to look at the person in relation to the situation. Kasi stress ay hindi lang tungkol sa nangyayari sa'yo. It's about the meaning you give. Yung binibigay mong meaning sa nangyari sa'yo. Ganun siya. Okay? Alright. And, eto yung appraisal, no? We have primary and secondary appraisal. Okay? So when we encounter a situation, we go through a process of evaluation. Sabi ni Lazarus and ni Folkman, ito yung tinatawag na appraisal. And they identified two types. The primary appraisal is basically asking yourself, what does this situation mean to me? Is this relevant to my life? And merong tatlong possible answers. Una, irrelevant. This doesn't concern me. Kung irrelevant ang situation sa life mo, wala kang response, zero stress, no? Kasi irrelevant na eh. Wala ka nang pakialam dun eh, 'di ba? So wala nang emotion, wala nang perception about that. Pumasa man o hindi, mangyari man o hindi, you don't really care about it, no? That's it. That's the first one. Second one is consistent with my goals. This is good for me. Kapag positive ang assessment mo, you feel positive emotions, happy, excited, 'di ba? Hopeful. For example, nung may news about initial oil price hike, nung mga time na yon, I was pretty much well off pa. Parang hindi ko iniinda yung price hike, ganyan. Although nag-drive ako motorcycle, pero hindi ko ramdam yung aray ng mga jeepney driver, ng mga ibang motorcycle, ng mga siguro motorcycle taxi driver, di ba? Yung mga nagmo-move it, nag-joyride, ganyan. So, since hindi ako connected sa idea ng oil price hike, kasi ay parang nag-casual rider lang ako eh. So, hindi masyadong mabigat sa akin. I don't care. That's irrelevant, no? Irrelevant yun sa akin. Pero dahil tumaas siya ng sobra, sobrang taas niya na naapektuhan na ako. Nung nagkaroon ng recent news about the oil price rollback and nangyayari na siya ngayon, kahit 4 pesos lang yan, masarap sa feeling for me kasi I drive motorcycle. Ramdam na ramdam ko na siya. Positive appraisal, positive emotion. Okay? The third one is the contrary to well-being. Ito, parang kino-consider natin yung isang bagay as a threat. Kapag negative ang evaluation mo, you experience negative emotions and this is where stress starts. 'Di ba? Like nung nalaman naming nag-increase na ng parang nag-increase na ng almost 10 pesos that week yung oil. Then the following week, 100 pesos na siya bigla. Very unacceptable. Contrary na 'yon sa kung ano yung pinaniniwalaan ko. Dapat hindi gano'n, 'di ba? Unfair. Pero here's the thing. Negative emotions don't automatically mean overwhelming stress. Dito pumapasok yung secondary appraisal. Ito, basically, tinatanong lang ng base ng secondary appraisal yung what can I do about this? What resources do I have to cope? Ganun siya. So, doon sa oil price hike, naisip ko, mag-stock na ako ng oil. And since may pera ako that time, bumili ako ng almost 7 liters ng gasoline that time. So, my assessment is that I can cope, stress decreases, 'di ba? Kasi nakakapag-cope up ako eh. Hindi ko iisipin yung mga susunod na pagtaas ng presyo kasi may gasolina ako. Pero sa iba, they might think, wala akong money, wala akong container, walang mahihiraman, di ba? The assessment is that they cannot cope. So the stress escalates. So the full stress experience depends on both appraisals, what the situation means to you, and whether you believe you can handle it. This is why two students with the same exam can have completely different stress levels. It's not just about the exam. It's about the appraisal. Okay? Okay. Good. Gets po ba? Nagigets naman ng lahat? Can I get a thumbs up if nagigets po ng mga tao? Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. Now let's talk about biology and physiology. Okay? So what happens sa loob ng katawan natin kapag stress tayo? Now we'll proceed with body systems involved in stress responses. Okay? All right. So, stress isn't just a feeling. It's a full body physiological event, no? Merong tatlong major systems na involved dito. Una is the autonomic nervous system. Alam naman na natin 'yun, 'di ba? The ANS. ANS. Remember from biology, ANS is the part of the nervous system that controls involuntary functions. Your heartbeat, your breathing, your digestion, everything that happens automatically, ANS 'yan. So, kapag stress ka, the ANS kicks into gear. Yung circulatory system nagpump ng mas madaming blood to your large muscles. Kasi your body is preparing to either fight or run away. Yung respiratory system natin nag-i-increase ng oxygen intake kasi yung muscles natin need ng fuel. Okay? Second is the endocrine system. Ito yung hormone system natin. Kapag na-detect ang stress, may mga glands na nagre-release ng hormones that cascade through our body. We call the combined nervous hormone system or the neuroendocrine system. Ito yung interplay naman between neural signals and hormonal signals. Third is yung mga key structures that coordinate all these. Okay? We have the hypothalamus una. Siya yung master control center. It links your nervous system to your endocrine system. Kapag stress ka or kapag na-detect na stress ka, yung hypothalamus nag-send out yan ng alarm. Then the pituitary gland is just below the hypothalamus and ito yung nagre-respond sa signals by releasing hormones sa bloodstream natin. And yung adrenal glands, which sits on top of the kidney, nagre-release naman siya ng actual stress hormones na nakakaapekto sa katawan natin, including the catecholamines like norepinephrine and the cortisol. Okay? So, yung system na to, nag-work sila together in two different pathways. Dalawang major pathway. Madali lang naman sila tandaan. Una, we have the pathway 1, which is the adrenal medullary system. Okay? Ito yung fast response. Seconds lang gumagana to. Ganito siya. Yung hypothalamus natin nagsisend ng instructions sa brainstem. Then yung brainstem naman nag-activate ng sympathetic neurons. Okay? And these neurons tell the adrenal glands to release norepinephrine. Okay. Gets po? So what happens to norepinephrine? Anong ginagawa ni norepinephrine? It activates the sympathetic responses, yung heart natin, yung heart rate natin tumataas, yung paghinga natin bumibilis, yung blood pressure natin tumataas, your body is now ready for action. Ito yung classic na fight or flight response. Evolutionarily, this makes total sense. Kasi kung may lion na hahabol sa'yo, kailangan mo ng burst of energy, kailangan mo yung adrenaline. Yung body natin is preparing you to either fight for your life or run like crazy. Diba? Now we have pathway 2, which is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal or the HPA. Okay? Dito, ang hypothalamus nagre-release ng something called corticotropin releasing factor, which is the CRF. This tells the pituitary gland to release ACHT or the adrenocorticotropic hormone. Okay? Then, si ACTH, nagta-travel siya to the adrenal cortex where it stimulates the release of cortisol. Cortisol, siya yung tinatawag nating stress hormone. Okay? Being, it's so central to the stress response. So, ano ginagawa ng cortisol? It helps break down complex molecules into simpler ones to release energy. Minimake sure niya na maraming glucose ang available sa bloodstream natin because we need that fuel. It regulates the immune system by reducing the number of immune cells sa bloodstream. In short, this makes sense kasi you don't need to fight infections right now. Ganun yung sinasabi niya. Hindi natin kailangan ng immune cells right now. Kailangan lang natin mag-survive. Ganun. Kung ano yung pinakakailangan ng katawan natin, yun lang yung ibibigay natin. Okay, and glucose yun, yung sugar mismo para may adrenaline tayo, right? Yun yung binibigay ng cortisol. But here's the problem. Kung tumatagal ang stress mo, the cortisol keeps flowing. And if lagi nang elevated yung cortisol, that's when problem starts. And we'll park that for now, okay? We'll talk more about that later. Now, If we if we don't shut off the activation, what happens to the body? Siyempre lagi kang nagre-release ng glucose, lagi kang may adrenaline, pagod na pagod ka. Alright? Gano'n siya. Noong 1946, isang Austrian physiologist, si Hans Selye, nag-propose siya ng model that describes kung anong nangyayari sa katawan natin when exposed to prolonged stress. He called it the General Adaptation Syndrome or the GAS. Sabi ni Selye, when we face extreme stressors, the body tries to adapt. Pero if the stress doesn't stop, the body eventually wears down and gets sick. Okay? And he identified 3 stages. Stage 1 is the alarm stage. Ito, this is the emergency response. Kapag na-encounter mo yung stressor, yung body natin goes into shock mode. Everything we talked about earlier, the sympathetic activation, yung HPA axis, yung release ng norepinephrine and the cortisol, this all kicks in. Yung katawan natin, it mobilizes all its resources para ma-deal yung threat. Sorry. Heart pumping, lungs working, glucose flooding your system. Stage 2, the resistance stage. Dito, animals and humans, they cannot stay in alarm mode forever. Anyone, no? It's too demanding. So if the stressor continues, you enter the resistance stage. Dito, yung katawan natin is trying to manage the threat. You're coping na this time. Pero the effort takes a toll. Resources that would go normally to maintenance functions like yung pag-repair ng cells natin, pag-digest ng foods, pag-fight ng infection, di ba? They're being diverted para mag-deal sa stress. Parang ipapark mo na sila, o dito ka muna, kami muna kasi kailangan natin tong i-survive. Ganyan. So you are functioning but you're operating on reserves. Okay? We have stage 3, the exhaustion stage. This is where things get dangerous. Kasi kung ang stress persists long enough, you eventually enter exhaustion. Your resources for fighting off the threat have been depleted. Okay? So, what happens after ma-deplete yung resources? Siyempre, magkakasakit ka na. Malaki yung chance na magkakasakit ka. Your immune system is suppressed. Yung katawan natin will eventually be worn down and become vulnerable. Have you ever noticed na you get sick after exam? Like, you survive the exam week, the whole stressful, long, sleepless nights. Diba? Stressed, sleep deprived, anxious. Pero you pushed through and miraculously you survived. Then, the moment exams are over, nagkasipon ka, nagkalagnat, or nagka-flu, di ba? Or biglang nagkaroon ng infection, nag-kick in lahat ng sakit. That's the exhaustion stage. Kasi your body held it together while you needed to perform. Pero once the pressure was off, the accumulated damage caught up with you. Why? Kasi nga nakapark po yung mga pang-repair system natin. Nakapark yung mga para sa yung mga immune cells natin, 'di ba? Pinapark sila, like pinatabi sila. Isipin yung ambulance. Yung may move it, no? May move it, malilate na sa trabaho. May move it, ihahatid yung pasahero niyang malilate na sa trabaho. Tapos may ambulansya sa likod. Ang mangyayari, magpa-park yung move it sa gilid para makadaan yung ambulansya. Isipin niyo yung ambulansya, that is our body trying to deal with stress. Tapos yung move it na yon, yung joyride na yon, kung sino mang motorcycle rider yan, sila yung mga immune cells natin na nagre-repair ng katawan natin. So dahil nakapark sila, pag nag-enter yung mga virus sa katawan natin, walang lumalaban. Kasi sinusurvive lang nila yung stress. Sinusubukan nila makapag-survive sa stress. That's the thing, no? Selye's model was groundbreaking pero it wasn't perfect. Some researchers questioned whether his model can really applied sa psychological stressors ng mga tao. Kasi ito ay based lang sa stressors ng animals. Pero later research showed that different emotions produce a different physiological patterns, challenging Selye's idea of one universal response. Still, yung GAS, the General Adaptation Syndrome, gives us or gave us a framework for understanding kung paano naglilid sa sakit ang matagal ng babad sa stress. And that brings us to the modern concept allostasis or allostasis. For a long time, naintindihan lang natin yung stress through the lens of homeostasis, di ba? Remember, homeostasis means the body tries to maintain a stable internal environment. Nadaanan natin to from emotion and motivation discussion. So when something disrupts that balance, the body works to restore it. So kapag nagutom ka, magbibigay ng drive yung katawan natin, mag-act si homeostasis, bibigyan ka ng drive ng sign na gutom na ako para magkaroon ng balance ulit. Pero may problema sa concept na to. Think about it, kung nasa disyerto ka and sobrang init, ang homeostasis ng katawan natin sasabihin lang sa'yo, o magpawis ka, kailangan mong magka-sweat to cool down para mabalance yung body temperature natin, kailangan mong mag-sweat and return to your ideal temperature. Pero if all you did was to sweat, made-dehydrate ka lang and your body would fail, di ba? So researchers develop a better concept, allostasis or allostasis. Ito sabi, it achieves stability through change. Instead na isang system lang ang magbabalik sa atin sa baseline, multiple systems na and they respond dynamically. So, ang idea is that through allostasis, ang body natin doesn't just sweat. Yung kidneys nagpo-produce na ng less urine, yung mucus natin nagda-dry out, yung blood vessels natin nagko-constrict to maintain pressure with less blood volume. Allo means different or changing. Yung idea is that ang normal state natin ay hindi lang isang static equilibrium. Isa siyang state of active responsiveness sa buong mundo. It is important kasi it helps us understand what happens when with chronic stress. Again, kapag ang katawan natin constantly adapting with the demands na just keep coming, no? We accumulate what's called allostatic load. This is the wear and tear sa body systems natin from the constant effort to adapt. Think of it like this. May motor. Tapos, it always run in high RPM. Okay? Rotation per minute. Sobrang bilis niya. Hindi siya bumabagal. So, mabilis umiikot yung gulong, mabilis umiikot yung engine, mabilis na nag-work. The engine is working hard all the time. Eventually, yung mga parte ng kotse na yan, magsa-start to wear out. Yung mga parte ng motor na yan, masisira. Okay? The motorcycle breaks down. Same thing with our body. Increasing yung emotional arousal correlates with increasing allostatic load. And kapag naging too much, magkakasakit ka. This is why yung matagal na stress is so harmful. It is very dangerous. Kaya hindi lang one big stressor ang papatay sa atin. It's the accumulated burden of responding to demands over time. Mas matagal, mas harmful. Okay? Now, let's look at how stress affects the brain specifically. Kasi naapektuhan niya yon biologically, okay? Usually, iniisip natin na stress is something na nanggaling sa brain natin or ginawa niya, di ba? Like, one way lang. Kaya tayo nasa-stress kasi gawa-gawa lang ng utak natin, di ba? Parang interpretations of event triggers our stress reactions. Pero, the process goes both way. Hindi lang siya galing sa brain natin. Naapektuhan niya rin yung brain natin. Yung physiological activation triggered by stress feeds back and changes brain structure and functions. And the most affected part is the hippocampus. Ito yung nasa crucial role ng learning and memory. Need mo yung hippocampus to form new memories, to remember what you studied, or to learn new information. The problem is, the hippocampus has one of the highest concentration of cortisol receptors sa buong utak natin. So kapag yung cortisol ay nag-release kasi na-stress ka, the hippocampus gets hit hard kasi ang laki-laki niya eh. Diba? And what does chronic cortisol exposure do again? 'di ba? It shrinks the dendrites in the hippocampus. And the dendrites ang branches ng neurons and they receive signals from other neurons. When they shrink, communication between neurons suffer, right? Chronic stress also reduces neurogenesis sa hippocampus and it may inhibit synaptic plasticity, which is the ability of synapses to strengthen or weaken over time. Ito yung foundation of learning. Ibig sabihin, chronic stress can impair your ability to learn and remember. Kasi kapag mas nasasaktan yung utak natin, kapag mas nasasaktan yung hippocampus natin, kapag siyempre mabubugbog yung hippocampus kapag palagi kang stress. So wala ka na imbes na may maalala ka, wala ka nang maaalala, 'di ba? So naranasan mo na bang naranasan mo na bang ma-stress sa exam na sobrang ingay sa labas, may exam, sobrang ingay sa labas, tapos iniisip mo pa, hindi ka pa nakapag-review, nag-away kayo ng jowa mo before your exam, sobrang stress mo sa exam na yun that you couldn't concentrate, na need mo pang basahin ng maraming beses yung tanong, tapos after 5, 6, 7 times basahin yung tanong, hindi mo pa rin siya na-gets, di ba? Isa pang factor is ang haba ng tanong, ang haba din ng choices, so hindi mo siya nagigets. That's your brain being affected by stress hormones. Okay? Gets nyo pa ba? Or stress na rin kayo learning about stress and health? Okay. No worries, i-discuss naman natin yung coping mamaya, kahit mabilis lang. Pero before that, let me discuss briefly how stress interacts with our genes. Kasi importante to in understanding individual differences sa stress responses. First, let me be clear. Walang single stress gene. Tulad sa personality, walang single stress gene. No single gene ang magde-define ng isang behavior, okay? Hindi siya parang on-off switch na nagde-determine kung stressed ka or hindi. Instead, several complex processes involving stress, genes, and hormones work together to regulate the relationship between stress and disease. What we know is that genes play a role in several ways. First, um, the effects of chronic social isolation on illness appeared to be influenced by genetic factors. Meaning, may mga taong more genetically vulnerable sa health effects of loneliness than others. Second, genes associated with the human stress response seem to be critical to certain chronic diseases. Yung genetic makeup kasi ay kaya kang gawing more or less susceptible sa diseases. Okay? Third, genes play a role in inflammatory processes related to stress. And inflammation, as we all know, is linked sa heart disease and cancer. Okay? But here's where it gets really interesting. Epigenetics. Yan, synaptic plasticity, yung kanina. Epigenetics. Hindi to about changing your DNA sequence kasi ang DNA natin stays the same. It's about changing how your genes are expressed, di ba? Environmental factors like diet, stress, or trauma can modify which genes gets turned on or off. Okay? Crucial to kasi it means na ang early life experiences natin ay merong lasting effects on how your body responds to stress. Kapag may extreme stressful situations na nangyari, bata ka pa lang, epigenetic processes can modify genes in ways that increase the likelihood of developing certain psychological disorders. Right? Especially pag tumanda ka na. Ito yung reason why Freud is somehow correct na your childhood is to be blamed to who you are right now. Pero it's not just psychological trauma or the sex, di ba? May actual changes in how genes are expressed. Okay? So early intervention matters. Protecting children from severe stress isn't just about immediate well-being. It's about lifelong health and overall mental health, right? Now, how do we cope up? 'Di ba? Now that we know what stress is, how it affects our health, 'di ba? Our physical and mental health, how do we cope up? What do we do with this information? 'Di ba? We know na stress is real. It affects our bodies and it can harm our health. It was present matagal na, hindi siya gawa-gawa ng Illuminati, hindi puwedeng sabihin ng mga matatanda na nung panahon namin, wala namang stress-stress, wala namang ganyan. Kasi biologically proven na meron siya. Yung girlfriend ko, yung partner ko, sobrang hilig niya sabihin sa'kin yung term na gawa-gawa lang ng isip mo 'yan. I know it's just parang part of the joke na meron kami sa isa't isa, especially she knows na, psychology major ako. So the point is, wag lang nating hayaan na sabihin na sa'tin 'yun, okey? 'Yan, kasi biologically proven na stress is there, alright? So what do we do about it? Ang coping is anything people do to deal with or manage stress or emotions. It's a broad category. 'Pag yung pag-walkout niyo sa stressful conversations, that's coping. Yung pag-rant mo sa partner mo about sa yung pag-rant mo sa partner mo about sa strict mong prof, coping yun. Or even eating ice cream after a long, exhausting day, coping din yun. Alright? Lazarus and Folkman identified three main types of coping strategies. The first one is problem-focused coping. This is when you try to change the situation that's creating the stress. You're attacking the stressors directly. Ang key characteristics kasi ng problem-focused coping is that it's designed to change the situation that's creating stress. Hindi ka lang, hindi ka lang nagma-manage ng feelings, you're addressing the root cause. Ginagamit 'to kapag alam mong kaya mong baguhin yung situation, may control ka about it, kung abot kaya mo. Like, naflatan ka ng gulong, puwedeng pa-vulcanize, puwede mong bombahan, 'di ba? You address the root cause itself. Example, yung kapatid mo nanonood ng movie, ang lakas ng volume, 3 AM. Tapos gusto mong matulog kasi may quiz bukas, may exam bukas, may pasok ka bukas, 'di ba? Problem-focused coping might mean talking to your sibling about it or kaltukan mo na kaagad, 'di ba? Ikaw ang kulit-kulit mo, 'di ba? Alam mong natutulog ako ng ganitong oras, mag-iingay ka, gano'n. Ganunin mo na kaagad, 'yan. Or if may pera ka, o bili ka earplug or lipat ka ng ibang kwarto, 'di ba? Or sumumo ka na mama at papa mo. You're trying to solve the problem here. But the thing is, not every situation can be changed. Not every situation can be controlled. Sometimes the stressor is beyond your control. And that's where emotion-focused coping becomes valuable. Ito, this is when you're trying to regulate the stress you're feeling rather than changing the situation itself. Emotion-focused coping is about managing the emotional experience of stress. There are several types. Papakita ko lahat later sa inyo. Pero ito yung mga reappraisal, katulad ng reappraisal like reevaluation sa situation, distancing yourself emotionally, trying to control your feelings, or even accepting your role sa situation. Yan, kapag nag-away kayo ng partner mo, tapos hindi na-solve yung problem and you just accepted na kung hindi ako magpapakalma, walang magso-sorry, ganyan. So, niregulate mo lang yung emotion mo parang pakumbaba. That's the emotion-focused coping. Okay? Now, we have the third, which is the social support coping. This one combines elements of both problem-focused and emotion-focused coping. When we turn to our friends and family, they can help us solve problems and help us feel better emotionally. Kapag nanghingi tayo ng tulong ng shoulder, when we're stressed, we often turn to friends and family. Dito pinagsamang problem-focused and emotion-focused coping. Your friends might give you advice kung paano i-handle yung situation. That's problem-focused. They might also just listen, give you a hug, and make you feel understood. That's emotion-focused. Each strategy has its place, and the best one depends on the situation. Okay? So as promised, ito yung sa emotion-focused coping. Ito yung mga types nila. First one is yung appraisal. Ito yung one of the most powerful. Ito yung nire-evaluate mo yung situation, you look at it differently, ganyan. 'Di ba? Second is distancing, no? Distancing is when you emotionally separate yourself from experience. This is not happening. I'm not going to let it consume me, ganyan. Gano'n, gano'n lang siya, no? Dini-distance mo lang, parang walk out, alis ka. Kung feeling mo nakaka-stress na kasama yung partner mo, alisan mo muna, lakad ka muna saglit, ganyan. Pampakalma, 'di ba? That's a coping mechanism para hindi ka ma-stress masyado. Escape avoidance is wishful thinking of distraction. You watch Netflix to forget your problems, you daydream about being somewhere else, ganyan. Meron kang temporary reset place, no? Meron kang sariling mundo. This can provide temporary relief, but it doesn't solve anything. Self-control is trying to regulate your own feelings and actions. Parang, I'm angry. Nagagalit ako, but I'm not going to yell. Parang ganun yung self-control, okay? All right. So accepting responsibility is acknowledging naman your role in that stressful situation. Like parang sinasabi mo na part ako dito, part ako ng problem na to. Part of this is my fault. I should have started earlier. I should have ganito. So I'll do this next time. Next time. Parang ganun siya. Okay? So here's the important catch is that some emotion-focused strategies can be maladaptive. Willful suppression of emotions, trying to force yourself not to feel what you're feeling, no? Yung pag nagsusuppress ka na, it can lead to chronic physiological arousal and poor psychological adjustment. And some strategies we use to feel better like drinking, smoking, or new drugs, no, can create new health problems. There's no inherently good or bad coping strategy. Basta yung best strategy depends on the context. Sometimes, denial can be helpful. Like when facing a terminal illness, you need temporary relief from the anxiety. Pero denying na may mga utang ka na na parang na parang ini-ignore mo yung mga bills mo, that's maladaptive, no? Kasi problematic 'yon. Si Krista Keys and si Fowler, they wanted to know how do social networks influence in health behaviors. Okay? So, they look at smoking first. Kung yung asawa mo raw ay nag-stop ng pag-iisoy, pagyoyosi, no, your chance of quitting will be 67%. If kaibigan mo yung huminto, 36%. If yung coworker mo, 34% yung chance of quitting. So kung nakikita mo yung mga tao around you na nagbabago, mas likely magbabago ka rin. The closer the relationship, the stronger the effect. Pero merong other side ng coin. Dito, tiningnan nila sa obesity. Kung yung friend mo ay naging obese, especially kung nakasama mo siyang hindi pa siya obese, tapos bigla siya naging obese, yung chance mo na maging obese ay 57%. If sibling, 40%. If spouse, no, kung asawa mo, 37%. And it wasn't just proximity that mattered. It was the closeness of the relationship, and same gender pairs had stronger effects on each other. Ang social networks ay may influence in both directions. We share healthy habits with our friends, but we also share unhealthy habits. Pero this is also a positive implication kasi kung nade-detect natin yung unhealthy patterns in social networks, we might be able to intervene earlier and prevent the outbreaks of epidemic of unhealthy behaviors. So choose your friends wisely, okay? Tandaan nyo yan. Hindi lang yan old wisdom. Kailangan nyo talagang piliin yung mga kaibigan nyo. Yung mga habits ng friend mo will and can become your habits. Okay? Kaya sabi nila kung sino yung mga kaibigan mo, ikaw yon, right? So pumili ka ng kung sino babarkadahin mo. Kung gusto mo ng kung ayaw mong magyosi, huwag kang magbarkada ng nagyoyosi. Ganun lang siya, okay? All right. Now, let's connect everything we've learned about stress sa health outcomes natin. Ang central idea ng section is something called psychosomatic theory. I want to clarify when people say psychosomatic, they often mean it's all in your head or you're making it up. That's a misunderstanding. Ha? That's a misunderstanding. Ang real meaning kasi ng psychosomatic is that emotional factors can increase yung likelihood ng certain disorders occurring or worsening. The mind and body are connected. Kahit ang well-known link between stress and ulcers isn't simply just causality, 'di ba? Stress increases the likelihood of ulcers by changing the chemical balance sa gut natin. but certain preconditions must be met for ulcers to actually develop. So may two main models that explain how stress leads to illnesses. Una is the physiological reactivity approach. Sabi, yung mga sustained physiological activation eventually nagda-damage ng body systems natin. Lahat ng hindi na-turn off or lahat ng hindi na-turn off yung elevated cortisol, yung elevated blood pressure, yung elevated heart rate, over time, it wears the body down, right? Ganun siya. Ang health behavior model naman ay nagfo-focus sa behaviors ng tao na nag-engage when stressed. Ganun siya. For example, sino sa inyo umiinom ng alcohol kapag stress? Yan, mga ganyan. Ganyan kayo ha. Okay. So fun fact, common sa BPO ang smoking sa break and yung pag-inom after shift. Kasi sobrang stressful ng BPO. Sasabihin ko na sobrang stressful ng call center. These behaviors themselves increases the risk, no, of diseases. At tulad ng marami, these models aren't mutually exclusive. A person might have sustained blood pressure eventually due to stress and drink heavily because of stress. Both pathways can operate at the same time, compounding the damage. So again, stress is complex. Hindi siya basta yung situation na nangyayari or just the physiological changes sa katawan natin. Ito yung interaction ng external events at kung paano natin ini-interpret yung situation. Yung katawan natin, it responds sa stress through coordinated activation ng autonomic nervous system, endocrine system at ng brain. No? The HPA axis releases cortisol, the sympathetic system prepares us for action. Madami tayong pinag-usapan today pero ang kailangan nyo lang tandaan ng sobra-sobra is that stress is not just what happens to you. Stress emerges from your interpretations of what events mean to you and your ability to deal with them. And good news to, kasi kahit na hindi natin laging kayang kontrolin yung paligid, you can develop better ways of interpreting and coping with what happens. Okay? Stress is normal. Everyone experiences it. Even I experience it. Kahit na yung pinakamagaling na psychologist sa buong mundo or yung nagsulat ng reference ng libro na pinagkukuhanan namin ng mga discussions, they experience stress as well. Part ito ng pagiging tao. The question is not whether you'll face stress or not, but how you'll handle it. And small changes matter. Di mo naman need baguhin yung sarili mo ng sobra. Like, lakad ka lang every time na stress ka. Lakad ka lang sa labas. Try to walk, no? Just to release that fog out of your brain. You have to just maintain your friendships. Eat a bit healthier, no? Wag lang puro chicherya, wag puro coke, 'di ba? Uminom ng tubig. Kumain ng gulay, gano'n. Get enough sleep. Hindi pwedeng 5 hours lang, 4 hours lang every day, 3 hours lang every day, 'di ba? Kasi these add up. Your health is shaped by the interaction of your mind and your body. Okay? So that's all for stress and health. Is there any questions? None for now. Okay. So if there are none, for now, we can proceed and pwede nyo nang sumunod sa or abangan yung psychological disorders natin and psychological interventions natin. So for now, if may mga questions mag-pop up sa isip nyo na tapos na tong discussion na to, then you can just inform me through Discord or the Facebook. All right? If there are none, thank you so much and you have a great day. Bye bye.